How's things been with yourself?
Yeah, fine. We're working on promoting this album and getting, things together, and hopefully next year we'll be back together and doing some shows, and some new recordings. So yeah, I mean, we're staying busy. We keep in touch. The Skype and the Zoom is a wonderful thing. It keeps us all connected.
It
In
does.
these times we need to, it's difficult to know what's round the corner, isn't it, with it all?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's go all the way back to right at the beginning. What music did you grow up listening to, and what give you influences going forward in life?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up in the early 60s as a small school kid, my parents always were big fans of especially American rock and blues and country music, and so we were always listening as kids to people like Little Richard and Chuck Berry, of course, and Elvis and Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and all that sort of American stuff that was so powerful. And of course, then with the British boom, with the Kinks and the Stones and the Beatles and all the rest of it, we were very blessed as kids growing up out of the late 50s into the early 60s. It was a wonderful time to be absorbing these great rock phenomena.
It's one of the things growing up for myself was these huge artists around the 70s. My dad was into his rock and roll, and growing up, I know there's modern heroes, but you've got when you speak to a lot of artists, it's all back to the 60s and 70s.
Well, that's when it starts. Yeah. I mean, the roots are there, the roots of music come out of the blues and the up-tempo sort of beats coming into the 50s and early 60s, and the British blues scene as well in the 60s. And of course, it only really sort of struck me when we were school kids and in the early 70s. And I remember we bunked off school to go and see the Woodstock film when it came out. And I remember the Alvin Lee 10 years after things struck me. I'd never touched a guitar at this point. I'd never even really thought about it seriously to do it. And then, of course, Jimi Hendrix came on at the end to close the Woodstock Festival, and he played the Star Spangled Banner and the Purple Haze. And I just looked at that whole thing, the way he played, not just as a guitar player, but as a performer, as an icon, if you like, with his wonderful sort of connection to the guitar. It was like an extension of his body. You couldn't actually... The guitar, that Stratocaster, was like his arm. It was actually part of him. And then the way he moved on stage with the amplifier, and he created this sort of triangle. And I remember thinking about it at the time. He's actually doing more than just playing notes on the guitar. He's actually creating a noise, a unique sound. And that was a combination of his body in connecting with that instrument, but also the invisible sort of feedback that he were creating and the distortion. And that was very powerful to me as a school kid. I couldn't even play guitar in those days. And it actually struck me. I watched this guy do this thing on that screen, and I thought, I've got to have a go at this somehow. There's something about what he's just done. And it changed my direction in life, really. And the next week, I was like, I want a guitar. I want to learn how to play a guitar. That was it.
Yeah.
And I was just obsessed about learning how to play, basically, after that. Yeah.
That's the main thing about when you go talk to musicians and you talk to guitarists, they you're taken back to that one image.
Moment.
And for
Yeah.
me, I wanted a guitar. Uh, well, I wanted to play bass because of Gene Simmons, because
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I wanted to be Gene Simmons. And but the one thing which got me into wanting to play an instrument is watching. At the time, I'm a massive Kiss fan, and seeing
Yeah.
the album cover of Alive and seeing Ace Frehley in a guitar pose, and I just thought, oh my God. And when I put the vinyl on, I was like, fuck, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my, I've got to be a musician. I've got to be a musician. And it, you'll always have that one image
Moment. Yeah.
which
It's
you'll always
fascinating,
look back at.
isn't it?
Yeah,
And I became obsessed then because it was like every chance we got, we're only what 14, 15 or something at the time.
yeah,
And we'd go to Sheffield City Hall and we'd go to Manchester Bellevue. They were the two big venues from my area. Not so many bands played Leeds that much in those days, but they all went to Manchester and Sheffield always. So we used to go and see all the bands, not just not just the known sort of heavy bands like Sabbath and Zeppelin and all these bands, but the pop charts were full of heavy music when I think back. I mean, Alice Cooper, Free, it was all hard rocking, Thin Lizzy, quite heavy sort of sounding stuff. And so you go and see them and learn and think, wow, I want to do this. I want to get on, engage with this. And I could sense I was becoming a performer
yeah.
before I'd even stepped on stage myself almost. And so I was blessed, really. I was blessed as a young child listening to the greats of the 50s and early 60s from my parents' influence. But then as a young teenager, having so much access to great music in the 70s. And the 70s, it were phenomenal, really, because you had everything. You had the edgy sort of punkier stuff going on, the Stranglers, the Pistols, all that stuff. But you also had the earlier, really heavy stuff with Zeppelin and all those bands.
Yeah.
And the pop charts with Slade and T-Rex and all these. And these are heavy rocking sounds, a lot of them. I mean, some of the stuff, the big power chords were in the charts every day, the pop charts. So we were well blessed, really, with music in those days. And
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Vardis is a sort of fusion in a way of all those influences. I mean, I tend to sort of write songs on acoustic guitar and
Yeah,
just melodically put words and music together as a sort of country blues thing, really. And then when I get together with the lads and we just crank it all up and we get grooving away, and then it just turns into this big noise. It's fascinating, really, because that's why Vardis somehow is sort of on the edge of being a pigeonhole. We are a rock and roll band, really, but it's sort of, it's a little bit more melodic in places, I think, to a lot of the sort of heavy rock. But
yeah.
it's what makes us what we are, and I can't change that, really.
To be honest, when I used to write songs years and years and years ago, I used to write them like yourself. I on a acoustic guitar, because I thought if I could play it and write it on an acoustic, then I
Yeah,
know that it'll sound even better when
yeah,
distortions are added and things. And uh, I totally agree. It's just something about learning um, or strumming along on a acoustic guitar, and you just think, wow, this sounds great.
yeah. And you get the melody, and you get the hooks in the words start to come out, and you can really, it's pretty a simple way of working, but it does work. And
Yeah.
And I think the songs are the most important thing. That's what most people remember, the little bits of melody and the little vocal, lyrical hooks that people remember. I mean, all the songs are an important thing to me, and I think it's something that can be overlooked sometimes in more progressive music. Anyway, you tend to sort of overlook the importance of a simple tune, you know, whistling a tune that you can almost whistle. And I've always been a bit of a poet in that way. I quite enjoy words and playing with melody, you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about the soon to be released new album, 100 Mile an Hour,
Yeah,
the 100 Club.
that's it.
What,
That's the
what
one.
made you choose to release a live album? I was listening to it today, and it's brilliant. It's a brilliant album.
You enjoy it. That's. Have you got the whole the two albums, the
I
you know, the 20 tracks, isn't it?
I I,
It's
I was listening. It's got all because I get it to write the review, so
right.
I think it's the full package.
Yeah,
I
it should,
read through the first.
20
Pardon?
tracks. I think
Yeah,
there's 20. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of tracks in there. I managed to get through half of it today.
Yeah.
Because I was driving down here, so I was listening to it driving down. It's a brilliant
Well,
album. It's fantastic.
I'm glad you enjoy it. That's great
Yeah,
news.
yeah, it's
Thank
great.
you. Appreciate that. Really do. I
Yeah,
mean, it's raw. We've always, you know, the original 100 miles an hour album,
yeah,
when we recorded that, the record label wanted us to go in and tweak it and redo a little bit of stuff that maybe we hit a bum note here or there, or some of my singing wasn't in tune. Whatever. But I said, you know, I think a live album's a live album, and I don't have a problem with people dubbing
yeah,
mistakes or whatever. But for me, I'd rather let people see it as it is and take it on the chin, so to speak, because in fact, I think it goes back to the days, as I was saying earlier. I remember seeing Mark Bolan at Sheffield, and he sang. He never sang the words of any of it. I remember he had a number one single called Telegram Sam at the time, and he just sang a completely different lyric to the whole thing, and it was number one in the charts. And he was just making it up. And that sort of ad lib is so smart. It's so clever, and I think expression is everything.
yeah,
And I enjoy that musically. I enjoy that with the guitar playing, with the bass, the drums. We have key moments live where we like know where we are, and we have to pull. It's like little set pieces that bring us back into the timeline. But there's also huge chunks and swathes of what I call sort of free expression, where I want Joe and Rowley to just
yeah,
let go and just let's see what comes out with this, you know. And
yeah.
and it's dangerous because you know you can end up with the right mess. But luckily, we played for a couple of hours at the 100 Club. Yeah, and I'd say a good 90% of it were pretty spot on and felt right, you know, and the expressive stuff worked, you know, we did click. So yeah, I mean, I felt it were good enough to try and mix and get it out there really, and yeah, it's something that had always been on my mind since we got back together in 2013. 2014, the reunion of Vardis. It's the only London venue we'd never played back in the day. We've done everything from Hammersmith Odeon to, you know, the Marquee to the Lyceum or whatever. But we'd never done the 100 Club. I think in those days it was more seen as a punky sort of venue.
Yeah.
And it sort of registered with me because I'd seen Metallica had played there to warm up for the Twickenham Stadium gig they did in London a few years ago. And also the Rolling Stones play it quite often when they're preparing for bigger shows. And I thought, I'm going to have to get in that gig and play it one day. And it just always niggled me, not that I'd never done the stage. And especially for me, having that sort of being brought up on the American blues and rock, and to know that Muddy Waters and, you know, B.B. King and Chuck Berry and all the greats of rock and blues guitar from the United States have played the 100 Club, going right back. I mean, it was the 100 Club's 70th anniversary when we played it. It was the 40th anniversary of the 100 Miles an Hour album. And I just thought it just sort of tie in so nicely if we could get this to happen.
Yeah.
So we got approached by the promoter and we got offered the Friday or the Saturday. I said, well, what are the dates? And he said, well, it's Friday the 13th or Saturday the 14th. And I said, nah, Friday the 13th, it's got to be, you know, come on, bring it on. So we did the Friday the 13th, and that was the evening of the lockdown. The next, if I'd have chose the 14th, that album wouldn't have ever been. It's that crazy.
Yeah.
We came off stage about just after 11 o'clock at night, and we were the last music on the London West End. We came off stage, and the next day everything were locked down and the venues were closed and everything. It was crazy. When I think about it, it were meant to happen, this album, I think.
It's crazy because obviously, like with Friday the 13th, you just think, "Oh, right, yeah, that's great."
Yeah.
But like you say, it's meant to have happened because otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, the pandemic took over, and we've had like a year of lockdown after that, literally. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's quite amazing, and I think, you know, you go through life sometimes and things just fall into place, and I think that's what happened. I mean, you know, we were all a bit. You could feel there was something in the air that wasn't right. Something. People were nervous. So many people rang the venue, emailed through the website, the Vardis website, and is it still on? Are you still going to be playing? Because people were getting nervous at that time, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I mean, it was tremendous in the sense that then through file transfers and stuff like that, because I have a little studio that I do my mastering and stuff, and Joe has his studio in Newcastle, and we were able to mix and balance the sound. And because we decided not to do like tracking or overdubbing and guarantee again no overdubs, which is important to me. Not because I mean, most live albums get overdubbed. It's just a fact. I mean, and I had an argument with Logo back in the day about overdubbing some of the original 100 Mile an Hour, and I said, I'm not going to do it. I said, I think the people should hear it as it was, and it's just me. I mean, I don't have a problem. I mean, great albums are great albums, whether they're dubbed or not. It's not really that important, but I just wanted to give it that sort of little bit of a punky edge, you know, and let people say what you're going to listen to is real. It's like, you know, if there's a mistake, it's there. If it weren't good enough, I wouldn't never have allowed it to go out. I'd have probably said, "Oh, we'll do another show somewhere else and do another live album another time." But no, we did. We played well and got it across. It was a long night, and yeah, we managed to. As I say, we were on stage a couple of hours. I mean, obviously we have to edit down the timeline of that to fit it onto 4 sides of vinyl, which is about 20, 25 minutes max, 24 minutes max. So you can't go, you know, a lot of the nonsense that I spiel when I'm on stage and all the rest of it had to go out of the thing because it's the music that's important. And Yeah, I mean, we managed to do it. So managed to pull it off, and I just hope people enjoy it, and especially at a time when we've all been starved of live music for a good 12 months or more, I hope it brings a bit of freshness back into people, and especially being an intimate sort of club atmosphere.
Yeah,
That's it, that one important as well. We want it to capture the 100 Club as the legendary venue that it is. I mean, it's had some of the greatest rock performers who've ever walked the earth play on that stage, and it was a great honour for me to follow that footstep in a way.
no, definitely. Before I shoot off, what have you set any tour plans or anything yet?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the process of hoping to confirm the Hard Rock Hell very shortly, that they do these big events at these coastal holiday camp type things. So I'm hoping that that's going to happen in the spring in Great Yarmouth. And then there's hopefully that week or 2 weeks, then we can fit other dates around that. And so touch wood, yeah. I mean, if any promoters out there want to get in touch with us through the website, there's an email address on there. We're definitely looking to tie in more dates, and yeah, I mean, we want to do it. Yeah,
I'll speak to them and try and get you up to South Wales.
Yeah, for sure, man. It'd be great. I'd love to. I mean, it's a lot of it is feasibility. I mean, I spend most of my time now. I'm sort of from my old work. I run my little studio. I'm down in Greece now, where I spend most of my time. But I do get back quite often, and especially if we have shows to play, and get back with the lads, and the lads sometimes come down here to do a bit of recording as well. But yeah, definitely next year, and we're up for playing as many shows as we can, and we enjoy it, and it's what it's all about at the end of the day. Live, get out there live, it's just the best.
Right, I'm gonna have to shoot off because it's all opening up at 7 o'clock. So
yeah,
I've got to get in there. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope we can speak again very, very soon.
Yeah, anytime. I mean, just let us know, we can have a natter, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, and have a good evening, and and speak to you very, very soon.
Let's do that. Hopefully we'll better have a pint at some point and play a show in your neck of the woods.
Absolutely. got to happen.
Take care, mate. See you then.
Okay, bye.